Greetings, one and all, Tekking and Barry back again. But hold, before we get into this video, I have a very important message, a word of caution. If you possess a delicate constitution or are faint of heart in any way, you should probably turn the video off right here. For you are about to come face to face with the single most terrifying creature that has ever walked the face of the earth, or swam in its oceans, or flown in its skies. Literally every single thing you have seen, everything that any human has laid their eyes upon since the beginning of humanity is under the shadow of its mighty wings. Are you ready? Are you ready? You're not ready, but here we go. The dragon duck. Oh no! Quack, quack, quack. Oh, now don't freak out, everybody. I know everyone's losing themselves right now, but don't freak out, okay? I will tell you what to do if your town comes under attack by a dragon duck. There is a way that you can survive. You have to give it an offering, a sacrifice, mind you. You must provide the dragon duck with 5 metric tons of corn, or oats, or rice, or bird seed, possibly frozen peas, chopped lettuce, or sliced grapes. That is what you feed the dragon duck. Do not feed the dragon duck bread. It is not good for the dragon duck's habitat. It just doesn't have a lot of nutrients in there. It's not good for the dragon duck's health, okay? You don't want the dragon ducks to get sick and die, all right? So, yeah, just keep that in mind, and don't worry, you'll be okay. All right. So, hello, everybody. Today's video, we're going to be talking about, good celestial dragons. Alright, so this is going to be the shortest video I've ever discussed ever. Basically, it's just a video on Mjosgard. Okay, so Mjosgard. And you know what? Mjosgard wasn't even a good celestial dragon to begin with. He was just like all the other ones. So if you really want to talk about celestial dragons that were good from the very beginning, Don Quixote Homing and his wife, whose name we still don't know. I feel like I should give her a name, right? Okay, so Doflamingo's whole family is, named after Don Quixote, the novel, the Spanish novel. And there was a woman in Don Quixote that I think her name was Dulcinea or something like that. It's been a while since I've read Don Quixote, but I guess we could call her Dulcinea and Homing. All right, there we go. Anyway, yeah, those were pretty good celestial dragons. They declared their humanity. They descended from on high for leaving Marie-Joie, leaving their life of luxury behind to live in a giant mansion. But still, okay, compared to where the celestial dragons live, that mansion right there in the middle of, 500 acres of land in the middle of the North Blue, that's basically a back shed compared to the celestial dragons, right? So yeah, they were pretty good, except they were extraordinarily naive. You really get the impression that Homing was like, oh, I will go and live amongst the common people of the world, and they will accept me as one of them. And we all know how that happened. It literally created Doflamingo. In fact, this is a video on good celestial dragons. What's Doflamingo even doing in the background here? We literally have 2 deadly dragons back here, and Doflamingo is the one that's like, no, you need to leave, okay? You know what? It really says something about Oda's writing style, okay? When in the One Piece world, we have a lot of evil characters. Okay, we have a lot of characters like pirates, like emperors, like Big Mom and Kaido that literally want to turn the world into like a pirate paradise. Kaido going around burning towns down. Big Mom has killed a lot of people. Even like the supernovas, like Eustace Kid. Kid has killed a lot of people in this story. Pirates going all up and down the 4 blues and the Grand Line, burning towns down, murdering people, pillaging. That's just awful. We have corrupt marines like Morgan that we get introduced to very early on in the story that are not good people, very egotistical, that basically make everybody that works under them just like a living hell. And with that being said, with all these horrible people that exist in the One Piece world, the celestial dragons take the cake, far and above, right? If it's a choice, seriously, okay, I'm gonna give you an ultimatum here, all right? If you had a choice between being ruled over by the celestial dragons in One Piece or being ruled over by Kaido, I think I would go with Kaido, honestly. I mean, it's sort of like, with Kaido's world, it's sort of just like, if you're strong, you'll be fine. If you're weak, you'll die. But with the celestial dragons, it's like slavery and torture and like extortion, and like, at least in Kaido's world, it's like, all right, gotta get strong. You know, you gotta start lifting, working on your hockey a little bit, work on your sword skills, and you might be okay. You know what I mean? So that's the thing, though. So most celestial dragons that we've seen in the story are just horrible people that are like very well and beyond redemption. Like, I don't want to see a redemption arc for Charlos, you know? I don't think anybody wants to see a redemption arc for Charlos, and I think Oda is smart enough of a writer to be like, yeah, no, that's not the direction we're going here. Dragon's Revolution, Charlos is going to be the first one to get guillotined, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's how this is going to go down. But this is a video talking about good celestial dragons, so let's dial that back a bit here. Okay, so first and foremost, I kind of just wanted to go through how many families of celestial dragons we actually know about. It's surprising because the only one, I guess there's two now, because with the reveal of the name of one of the Gorosei, so spoilers for recent stuff in the One Piece manga if you're not up to that point yet, if you're not up to Egghead, okay? But up until the reveal of Saint J. Garcia Saturn's name, the only celestial dragon family name that we knew for certain, 100%, was the Don Quixote family. That was it. Now, we know about Rosward. I think it's Rosward, not Roswald, but I'll probably say Roswald just because that sounds, it just makes more sense to me. Roswald, Charlos, Charlos's sister, whose name I always forget because she's not really all that important. We know that they're celestial dragons, but we don't know their family name, because their family names are like, they're referred to as like Saint Charlos, Saint Roswald, Saint Homing with the Don Quixote family. So that's their first name, their given name. Their family name is not what's in, like, Saint is in front of, okay? So that was the only one we knew for certain, 100%, okay? Because Don Quixote Homing and his wife, and then Don Quixote Doflamingo and Don Quixote Rocinante, all right, were their children, okay? So then, though, in Egghead, just recently, we have the reveal of St. J. Garcia Saturn, who's a member of the Gorosei, and it was already revealed during Reverie that all the members of the Gorosei are also celestial dragons, okay? So the only two names right now for certain out of the 19 families of celestial dragons that live at Marijois, keep in mind the 20th family was the Nefeltari family, so I guess, well, okay, look at it this way. Out of the 20 families that actually founded the world government back 800-something years ago during the Void Century, we know about the Nefeltari family, and we know about the Don Quixote family, and we know about the Saturn family right now, okay? But the Nefeltari family were never celestial dragons, because in order to be considered a celestial dragon, I guess you have to be living at Marijois, in the Holy Land, in the Celestial Dragon City. There's also a thing called a Celestial Dragon chip, like they have identification chips that like let everybody know that we are actually members of the Celestial Dragons, and the Nefeltari family left before all of that. They never lived at Marijois. They never lived on top of the Red Line. They participated in this war against the clan of D. The ancient weapons were involved, you know, all that kind of jazz. We still don't know about that. I mean, that's the whole Void Century stuff right there. But then after the war was won and the world government was founded, then the Nefeltari family opted to like, hey, we're going to go back to our homeland in Alabasta. We're going to live there. So it really just comes down to if they chose to stay in Marijois, you know, Vivi might have never have been born because that's a completely different timeline, but Vivi, if she would have been born, would have been Vivi Nefeltari, Saint Vivi, and would have been a celestial dragon. The only thing really different is the fact that the Nefeltari family lives in Alabasta rather than Marijois. That's really the only difference of what considers somebody a celestial dragon. So, yeah, we know about the Nefeltari family, but they don't count. So in terms of celestial dragon families that are currently living in Marijois, we know about the Don Quixote family, and we know about Saturn's family, all right? Now, everything beyond this is going to be conjecture and theory, okay? So, because we have the 5 Gorosei, the 5 Elder Stars, and one of them has the family name of Saturn, I believe so, because Saint J. Garcia Saturn, just like Saint Charlos, you know, Charlos is not his family name, it's his given name, so Saint J. Garcia would be his first name. Saturn is the family name, which makes sense because it connects back to the ancient weapons. We have Pluton, Poseidon, which is, you know, the Greek term for Neptune, and then Uranos, which are the ancient weapons. So then Saturn is another planet. So I'm going to go ahead and assume, and this is a popular theory right now, it might not be the case, but from what it's looking like right now, The other 4 family names of the Gorosei are going to be named after planets. So we have Saturn. We'll probably also have Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and Mercury. Skipping over Earth right now because a popular theory is that might represent Im. Earth might be another character altogether. Luffy represents the sun as he has the Hito Hito no Mi, model sun god Nika, all right? So if we throw those names in there, now we have 6. We have the 5 names of the Gorosei families, and then we have the Don Quixote family. But we also have a family name that was given to us during One Piece film Red that was purportedly the family name of Shanks, not confirmed, and also purportedly a celestial dragon family, and that is the Figarland family, okay? And so this is the family name the Gorosei were afraid that Uta was part of. Uta is not the, biological daughter of Shanks, but they didn't know that. They assumed that she was, but they assumed that Uta was a member of the Figarland family because Shanks, that's his family name, purportedly, okay? So, and he was found in a treasure chest at God Valley, so that would make sense because that's where the celestial dragons lived, all right? So there we go. Now we have 7 family names. You throw Roswald's family on there. We don't know his family name, but he's obviously a celestial dragon. We also have Saint Jalmac, who appeared during the flashback at the Goa Kingdom with the Grey Terminal and Luffy, Sabo, and Ace in their flashback. Jalmac was the celestial dragon that arrived and shot Sabo's boat. Now, the problem with this is Jalmac could be a member of the Don Quixote family. He could have been a member of Roswald's family. We do not know, so this isn't even 100% certain. The only ones we know for certain are the Don Quixote family and the Saturn family. Also, Roswald's family, because they're not connected to the Don Quixotes, we know that much. Even Mjosgard, who for the longest time people thought Mjosgard was part of another celestial dragon family, is a member of the Don Quixote family, right? And that's nuts, because if you look here, this is the ship of the Don Quixote family that they use to take to the North Blue when they decide to become normal citizens of the world. You can see the figurehead is like a lion, and then later on we see another celestial dragon ship in the Fishman Island flashback, which is Mjolsgard's ship, and this one has a rat at the figurehead. So I assumed like, oh, okay, well maybe each celestial dragon family has like a different figurehead, a different animal to represent them. But that's not the case, because we see a lion for the Don Quixote family, and then we see a rat for another branch of the Don Quixote family. I don't think Mjolsgard is like Doflamingo's uncle or anything like that. Like, they're not that closely related. For one thing, Mjolsgard has green hair, and then Homing and his wife were blonde. Same thing with Don Quixote, Doflamingo, and Rocinante. They all had blonde hair. Mjolsgard has green hair. Oh, by the way, you also get to see Mjolsgard's dad, which, by the way, I got to give you a warning for every time before I'm about to show this dude, I gotta give a warning, all right? This is the real warning in the video. If you are faint of heart, if you're kind of queasy right now, probably turn off the video right here. Okay, this is Mjolsgard's daddy. What the hell? What the hell? All right? Like, what is that? All right? Like, I'm trying to figure out a way to phrase this without YouTube getting like, but, you have the Celestial Dragons families, and they're all living at Marijois for like 800-something years. Like, all of these families that are trying to keep their bloodlines, like, pure. Just like, not unlike the Habsburgs or some other, Austrian dukes and whatnot of our world. Gotta keep the bloodline pure. Yeah, so you can see kind of what happens with that. Yeah, all right. Anywho, yeah, so those are the Celestial Dragon families that we know about right now. So Mjolsgard, let's talk about him. All right, Mjolsgard started out just like the same as all the other Celestial Dragons. He was raised in the Celestial Dragon City in the Holy Land, basically set up as like, oh, you are just better than every other person that lives on the planet. You get the idea for the arrogance that the Celestial Dragons have, and they take that to not just like regular arrogance, but like godly, deity levels of arrogance, where they find themselves even breathing the same air as commoners to be an insult to them. So they wear their little, insulated suits, their vacuum suits, and they got like their bubble heads at Sabaody, and Jalmac at Goa Kingdom wore like a glass kind of container over his head. So the idea of even breathing the same air as other people is ridiculous to them. They refer to themselves, of course, living in the higher realm and in the lower realm. So, like, we live in the gods realm, and everything below us is the commoner realm, the lower realm, where the plebs live. You know what I mean? They have no empathy, no concern for anything other than themselves. That is who the celestial dragons are. And Mjosgard was no different when he showed up at Fishman Island. The reason he showed up there was because a lot of the slaves, the Fishman and merfolk slaves that the celestial dragons had, were freed by Fisher Tiger during his raid on Mjosgard. And so they went back down to Fishman Island, and they were living there, and they were branded with the Sun Pirate sigil to cover up the slave mark of the hoof of the celestial dragons. Now, we don't know how old Mjosgard is. I'm assuming, though, because right now I think he's somewhere in his 30s, so he's probably somewhere in maybe his like late teens, early 20s, when he went down to Fishman Island 11 years ago and you know, met Otohime and everything like that. So he basically went over to his father, and he was just like, "Daddy, why did they take the slaves away? I want them back." And Mjosgard's dad is just like, "Oh, it's bureaucracy, my son. That's just the way the world works." And Mjosgard is like, "Well, I'm going to go get them back because they're mine." And so he gets in a ship, and it gets coded, and they go down to Fishman Island. They get attacked on the way there, no duh. And, you know, he's the only survivor. He's climbing out of the wreckage, he's bleeding, and he's just like, "You pathetic fish, you help me," you know, whatever. And then Mjosgard's former slaves show up and are about to just put a bullet right in his head when Otohime arrives and, you know, protects him. And she's like, "No, you must not harm him, even though he's the worst of all humanity. You must not harm him." And so Mjosgard and Otohime go back to the surface. And I was going to make a whole video on Otohime, and I just kind of got distracted from it. But I need to go back and make a whole video about Otohime as like a companion piece to the Fisher Tiger video. I was going to do that, and I just got distracted from it. Anyway, Otohime and Mjosgard go back up to you know, Mjosgard, and they discuss, you know, the idea of the fishmen and the merfolk coming back to the surface and being reunited with humanity and everything like that, living under the sun together, being invited back to Reverie, to which they had not been to Reverie. Like, this Reverie in the story, the Reverie arc that we just had, but right before Wano, was the first time that I think the fishmen and merfolk were at Reverie. The Ryugu Kingdom was represented for like 200 years or something like that. It was insane. So I imagine that's you know, part you know, because of Otohime and Mjosgard, you know, working together there. So Mjosgard actually realized how much of a scummy person he was and how horrible everything the celestial dragons have done because of Otohime. Otohime gave him his humanity, and that is something he is forever grateful for, okay? Now, what does he do with this? Well, if you look at the way that Homing and his wife went about this, like I said, very naive, very oblivious to the way and the state of the world works. He thought that I would just, I don't want to live in luxury up here in Mjosgard. I want to live amongst the people of the world, okay? You could even argue that Homing kind of viewed it as a novelty, in a sense, like, "Oh, I will go and live with the common folk. Ah, yes, that will be such a pleasant thing, living with the regular salt-of-the-earth people of the world," you know? So maybe a little bit, you know, he's still a little bit high class there, but compared to the other celestial dragons, way better, you know, than the other ones, okay? But Homing was naive, and he did not realize of how much pain and suffering that the celestial dragons cause. And they just literally go through towns and just murder people whenever they feel like it, okay? And so when, you know, the people of the island that he was living on discovered that his family was a celestial dragon family, he was doomed from that point forward, okay? Homing, like, literally brought his family to die, okay? So perhaps Mjosgard knew about that. He knew what happened with Homing, who is a member of the Don Quixote family, just like he is, like a branch family or different. I'm assuming Doflamingo's line was the main family, and Mjosgard's was more of a branch family kind of thing, you know? And so maybe Mjosgard was aware of, like, okay, Otohime has given me my humanity. And by the way, can you imagine the crushing weight that would hit you like a freaking truck? You know what I mean? Like, you're a celestial dragon like Mjosgard who's talking with Otohime and then realizing just how awful you and every single person you know, your family, your friends, everybody you've pretty much known your entire life is, and the horrible, just like, straight up war crimes that every single celestial dragon has committed throughout history, like Tequila Wolf and the slavery thing, and then, you know, just murdering people on the streets, and the slavery thing, that's kind of a big one, that's a big issue, and just realizing how horrible that is, You know what actually reminds me of? Any fans of Buffy the Vampire Slayer out there? Yeah. Angel, who is this horrible vampire when he becomes a vampire. I mean, he's just going around murdering people like crazy, like one of the worst vampires. Literally one of the most evil characters in all of Buffy is Angelus in his pure vampire form. And then he was cursed to be given a soul at one point, okay? And they give him a soul, and then he realizes all the horrible things he's done. He's like, oh my God, what am I? You know, like that would be kind of like it is to an extent with the Celestial Dragons. Like, that's kind of what happens, right? Okay, so, yeah, Mjosgard probably struggled with that existential crisis for several years. Keep in mind, it was like 11 years since when he met Otahime to now when he smacks Charlos across the face, okay? So I'm sure Mjosgard might have considered just himself, maybe. He might have considered going back down to living in the world with the humans, just like Homing did. But he probably decided, you know, maybe he realized, like, okay, if I just end it, that's not going to help anybody. If I move down into the lower realm, I'm just going to get murdered just like Homing did. That's not going to, you know. But if I stay here in Mjosgard and I continue living a Celestial Dragon, maybe I might be able to do some good. Maybe I might be able to help people in the long run. Maybe I might be able to change things. Now, this is the most uphill battle of uphill battles, all right? But at least he's trying, you know what I mean? And we saw that when he attacked Charlos, knocking him away from Shirahoshi at the Reverie, and he offered to give his assistance. Now, the Celestial Dragons do have a judiciary body. It's not that, yes, they can pretty much do whatever they want to anybody on the planet with no repercussions whatsoever. Doesn't matter. They can literally go down the street, shoot anybody they want to shoot. They can just be like, you know, oh, I like, you know, that person over there, make them my wife or make them my husband, and it's just done like that, regardless of the other person's, you know, will on this or what their, you know, their choice is. It doesn't matter. They could do the most horrible things. But when it comes to themselves, there has to be a judiciary body. There has to be somebody to mediate this, and that's referred to as God's Knights. So what happens when a Celestial Dragon physically attacks another Celestial Dragon? I'm sure this is not the first time this has come up throughout history. I'm sure other times, you know, Celestial Dragons have had disagreements with one another, because there are a lot of them. There's 19 full families that are living in the Holy Land, okay? So I'm sure every once and again there's like it's probably just a stupid dispute of just like, oh, yes, you were walking your dog on my lawn, Saint Charlos, you know, he pooped on my lawn, you know, I will now challenge you to a duel. And it's like, we must get the God's Knights involved for this, you know, it's like something like that, you know. So this is probably a rare occasion where a Celestial Dragon will physically like attack another one like Mjosgard did to Charlos, but we have the God's Knights to arbitrate that and decide, and we don't know how that ended out, so we'll see what happens there. What punishment they would even dish out to a Celestial Dragon. Like, what would be the ultimate punishment of a Celestial Dragon? Probably being forced and stripped of their title to go and live in the lower realm would probably be the greatest shame that a Celestial Dragon can suffer. I mean, I'm sure many would choose death over living in the lower realm like a commoner and having their status ripped from them, okay? So that might be the ultimate punishment for a Celestial Dragon, but who knows? Mjosgard might have not have been issued that. He might have been given just a slap on the wrist, like, well, don't attack other Celestial Dragons from now on, or we might have to actually punish you or something like that. Because he's still a Celestial Dragon. They still can't really do much to him just because his personality's different. He's the odd one out of all of them, right? Or is he? Because like I said, there's a lot of these families, and we don't even know half of them, okay? Even looking at this chart right here, you know, reference table, even looking at this reference table, like, a lot of these are just, you know, assumptions on the names of these families, okay? But there's 19 families that are living together in this big city in Mjosgard, so you assume just there has to be at least a few others. Maybe there's even like an underground movement in the Celestial Dragons themselves, like a splinter group that are like ally. Maybe Mjosgard is the one that's leading that up, and there's some other Celestial Dragons that maybe see the world not as like, you know, the other Celestial Dragons do, and like, hey, we're not gods, we're humans just like everybody else. This is messed up what we're doing. I was reading the history of the world because they would have access to that. You would imagine if there was anybody on the planet that would have access to maybe not necessarily every detail of the Void Century, but more detail than most people know about the Void Century, it would be the Celestial Dragons. Now, I'm sure most of them don't sit around and read. It's like, I will go and read the histories of the world. Most of them are just like, yes, butler, wash my bunions. That's pretty much just it. But for those of them that want to study the world, they might be learning about what they did. Like, oh my God, this is awful. So it's probably only a select few, maybe only a group of like less than 10 or so. Maybe even getting to that number is kind of stretching it because the Celestial Dragons are really warped. But you get the idea that maybe Mjosgard is leading up a small splinter group that might be allied with the Revolutionary Army. So this is where we get into a topic. I've discussed this before, or rather I've discussed myself not discussing this before. There's a lot of videos that I've thought about before that I just didn't end up doing for whatever reason. Typically, it's because I just kind of lose interest, or maybe I've already done a video similar enough to that video before. So I'll come up with an idea for a video, and I'll kind of just set it on a shelf and be like, I might get back to that, I might not. Sometimes I'll be like, that's not a great video, and I'll scrap the whole thing. There is one video, though, that I was all ready to make. It was about maybe 2 years ago. I was going to make this video on the actual logistics of Dragon's Revolution and what that would actually entail. Like, when it is go time for the revolution, what's Dragon going to do? And that video started very simply. A lot of the stuff in that video I adapted for the Straw Hats at Mjosgard video. I did this 3-part series on what if the Straw Hats attacked Mjosgard. And like a lot of like the beginning of the Dragon Revolution was like, okay, how are the revolutionaries even going to get into Mjosgard? Like, how are they going to attack the city? That was like the start of the video. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is going places. But then it gets really dark, and to the point where it's like, I don't think YouTube would monetize this with a 10-foot pole, you know what I mean? Because you got to understand, Oda takes a lot of references from real-world stuff and adapts it into One Piece, okay? He takes, like, the root of a lot of things in One Piece is based in horrible parts of human history that have a lot of bloodshed tied to them, okay? And considering we're talking about a large-scale revolution about Dragon leading a revolution, and he stated straight up that he doesn't want to remove the world government. He doesn't want to remove the whole infrastructure of the world government because that would cause other problems. That would, like, if he destroyed the world government and all of that and the Marines were in shambles and the command structure was just gone, then you would basically have Kaido's dream come true. You would have a lawless world filled with, like, pirate islands, okay, and anarchy, and that's not good, right? So they want to keep the infrastructure of the world government, but they want to remove the Tenryubitto. That's the rule, the Celestial Dragons. That's the problem. Those are the issues. The reason why slavery exists in the One Piece world is not because of the emperors. It's not because of the Marines. It's not because of the Cipher Pole. The reason that slavery exists in the One Piece world is directly because the Celestial Dragons demand slavery. That is the reason. So Dragon is like, let's get rid of the Celestial Dragons and then start a whole new system from there, or rework the world government, but keep the structure of the world government there. Keep the Marines there, So yeah, whatever, sure. But then you start, for that video, I started researching real-world revolutions and slave uprisings, and it's like, it got to the point where I'm like, I don't think I can make a video about this. Like, I really don't think. I was researching, so Dragon's ship, the ship of the Revolutionary Army, the one that has the dragon figurehead. We see it during the Goa flashback with Gray Terminal and everything, the one that's docked at Shimosuke Village. That ship is called the Wind Gramma, and it's named after a yacht that was used principally in the Cuban Revolution in the 1950s, which it was a ship that they used to ferry the fighters of the Cuban Revolution, like 80-something fighters for the revolution, from mainland Mexico to the island of Cuba, all right? So right there, you have a lot of connections between, or at least a connection between Dragon and the Cuban Revolution, where Batista was ousted by Fidel Castro, okay? So then I start reading about the Cuban Revolution. That also leads me to reading about slave uprisings, like the Haitian Revolution, which was one of the very few, I don't know if it was the only, but it was the most well-known successful slave uprising, which actually resulted in the slaves winning and the freed slaves of Haiti forming their own nation, casting off the French rule. Okay, so I was reading about the Haitian Revolution, reading about slave uprisings here in the U.S. Like, literally, like, the United States itself is a product of a revolution, but then, like, the slave uprisings in, like, the antebellum period in the 1800s, we have, like, Nat Turner's uprising, John Brown's call to arms, and all that kind of stuff, so I'm reading about that. I'm reading about, like, the Taiping Revolution, which killed, like, 20 million people. I think 20 million lowballed. It's like 20 to 30 million people dead. So I'm reading about all this crap, and I'm like, all right, Oda's probably going to incorporate some of this stuff into the actual revolution. Like what's Dragon going to do when he gets into the city? Is he just going to murder every celestial dragon? Like, every single one? Like, women, children, elderly, like, everybody? That's what he's going to do? So that's where that video got scrapped right there. So I don't even know, like, at this point, maybe even it's getting, I'm going to stop right at this moment, because I think even at this point, it might be, I don't know. But if Dragon does have allies like Mjosgard in the Celestial Dragons, where he can maybe work with and realize, like, hey, not all Celestial Dragons are evil. Not all of us are bad. We will help you reform and get rid of the horrible Celestial Dragons, and they'll have to come to an arrangement or something. But, dude, then you think about the kind of guy Dragon is. Now, we don't know Dragon's backstory. We have no idea. Dragon does not fuck around. All right? Dragon is not like the happy-go-lucky kind of personality that Garp and Luffy have. Dragon, something happened in his backstory, probably involving his wife, Luffy's mom, in some way. There's a theory that Luffy's mom was a celestial dragon. Dragon himself might have been a celestial dragon or be related to a celestial dragon. His name is Dragon, for God's sakes. Something going on with Dragon and celestial dragons, obviously. But Dragon is not... He is the leader of a fully realized revolution. He does not mess around, okay? He is not all happy-go-lucky like Luffy is, okay? He gets shit done. So you think the final culmination of this, the final revolution yell and charge of this army against the Tenryubitto, what do you think's gonna happen? Do you think Dragon's gonna walk up to the gates of the city and be like, all right, Celestial Dragons, I just want to, like, ask politely if you would like to, throw away all of your power and toss away all of your, your privileges as Celestial Dragons, and we won't annihilate you, and we can just let us run the world government from now on. We're going to set up a whole new system. We're going to get rid of the Tenryubitto system. We're going to get rid of the Gorosei. We're just going to do all that. Everything's going to be good. And the Tenryubitto are just going to open the door and be like, we agree with that, Dragon, and then just shake hands, and then that's it. It's going to be an absolute massacre. How bad of one? I don't know, but it's going to be bad, all right? It's going to be a lot of blood. It's going to be brutal as hell. For this to thematically make sense, it kind of has to be brutal as hell. And also, I got to throw this out there, kind of similar to Orochi in a respect. Oda sets up Orochi as this horrible individual that literally just wants to ruin the nation of Wano, burn it to the ground, and pollute the land and poison his citizens. He does not care about anything. Even members of his own clan, like the Kurozumi clan, does not live in luxury in Wano. They suffer just as much as everybody else does. And then Orochi's final payment for that was getting decapitated by Denjiro, actually being decapitated multiple times. But Orochi just straight up died. Okay, Kurozumi was born to burn! That's what Hiyori said. So it's kind of something similar to the Tenryubitto, where Oda's really setting up these celestial dragons like these are the most horrible individuals ever, and eventually they're going to pay for their transgressions with their lives. You can literally see the guillotines being rolled out, and then Charlos and Roswald and everybody being, you could see that going down. Now, I don't know what the limit that Oda could really do in a shonen manga. If it was a seinen manga, different ballpark altogether on that one. But with a shonen manga, I don't know how Oda could really pull this off. But I guess we'll see, right? I guess we'll see. Anyway, what was I? All right. Animal facts. New episode. We're moving over to the letter T. Turtle facts. This was such a dark episode. I don't even know if I want to do turtle facts. I wrote, you know what? I'm just going to end the episode here. We'll do turtle facts next time. Yeah, I'm just gonna go. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, everybody. Teching 101 signing out. Later.